Come, come into this circle of love and justice. Come into this community of mercy, holiness, and health. Come, and you shall know peace and joy. For those of you on Zoom, you can have your candle close by, your chalice. And here in our fellowship, I'll ask Lois to come forward to light the chalice while I read the words of Albert Schweitzer. At times our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us.
If you could rise as you're willing or able. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Hey, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Yeah.
Well, this is a time in our services that we offer our bounties with each other to continue the positive and far-reaching outreach to not only our fellowship, but the greater community. And baskets will be passed to you sitting here, those on Zoom, and of course, you here can text 73256, putting UUFN in the message box and hit send. And for those of you here, we will have baskets passed throughout. Or you can mail a check to the office here at 780 Del Monte Lane, Reno 89511. Or better yet, do like Lois and I, we sign up for automatic giving. It's really simple and a convenient way to give. There's a couple ways to do that, so contact Carol in the office to explain the process. Now, one of the many things I really love about this fellowship is that each month we choose a nonprofit to share our plate with. Now, here's how that works. I already mentioned how to donate by texting. Now, there are instructions to do that. You can put an additional contribution to the share partner. Now, if you write a check, we assume you want it to go to the operating fund unless you make a notation that you want those monies to be shared with our plate partner. Our recipient for this month of May is one of my favorite nonprofits and one that Lois and I gladly support personally. Notable Music Services. And I think we might have someone representing them here. Where is she? She said she was going to sit in the back, and she did. Manal, come on up. This is Manal Tapazada. Manal is the executive director of Notable Music Therapy.
Thank you, Dave. And hi, Lois. Dave and Lois have been wonderful, wonderful longtime supporters of our organization. And I'm just going to speak for a couple of minutes, but I want to say how much I appreciate this opportunity to speak to you this morning about our organization. So how many of you, if I ask you if you've heard of the Notables, how many of you have heard of the Notables? Wonderful, that's so awesome. It's a little bit of a mixed blessing for us because when I ask people about the Notables, my guess is that most of you think of the band, our performance programs. The band is about, I think, 0.5% of what we do. And so this is why I love the opportunity to share a little bit about what we do as an organization. So our organization works to address physical, social, and mental health needs in our community through music and through music therapy. We just purchased a 17,000 square foot building on 3 acres, and our vision is to create a regional center for music and health that can be a national model for how music can make communities more healthy and whole. And it's a very ambitious project, it's a very exciting project. We see about 2,000 people a year in our programs. Some of those programs are on site in our center, and many of them are out in the community. We partner with about 24 different agencies. And when I talk about partnering and I talk about music, I want to just, I can talk forever about this, but I won't. But it's really important, I think, to explain or for people to understand why music is so important. Music is who we are. It is part of who we are as humans. So I use the term universal language. I don't like that term very much. Sort of what I think of as music is the universal experience. And so there's never been a culture throughout time or throughout the world that has not had music. Music is who we are, as part of who we are as humans. And if you come from that paradigm, then you realize and understand that music is not just for the talented few, right? It's not just for the people who can sing or the people who can dance. It is part of what makes us most human. And when you come from that perspective, you realize and understand that if you're in prison, if you're in the hospital, if you're experiencing homelessness, you deserve the same rights to experience, connect, and express yourself through music as the rest of us do. And being given those opportunities to have your voice heard and recognized and respected and celebrated can make people who are living on the margins, who feel unhuman, be humanized and connect through that medium of music. So that's really our passion, why we do what we do, because we know that when we bring music to people who traditionally don't have the privilege of experiencing music, we see humanity rise, we see humanity be recognized, and we see people connect and see each other through music and the arts. So, like I said, I can talk forever. I'm not going to talk any more about our programs, but if you're interested in coming and seeing our facility, we're in the middle of about a $5 million renovation right now, and it's going to be an amazing, amazing space for people of all ages and abilities to come together through music. So if you're interested, please reach out to me. Dave and Lois know how to reach me also. And again, thank you so much for this opportunity to just give a little glimpse of what we're doing in the community. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Manal. And now, let the ushers please come forward. Sheila, come on forward. It's okay. I've never known you to be shy and hang back. So would you join Sheila and myself as we bless these offerings to the work of this fellowship, which is helping more people grow in love, faith, justice, and joy. We dedicate ourselves, and these are offerings. Thank you. Leah.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, everyone, for coming today. I was telling Dave I don't draw quite the same crowd as Reverend Karen's retirement, but I'm still thrilled to be here. I had a difficult time writing for what I was going to talk about as a lay minister today, or lay spokesperson, mostly because I couldn't decide on pronouns. Like, that was really difficult for me. And also the musical choices. So I listen to Spotify pretty much constantly, and This Little Light of Mine is one of my favorites, although I listened to it by a band called Whipped Cream and Jamaro, and it's an EDM mix of Little Light of Mine, and I learned that there's some like copyright issues, so we can't have that version in Sanctuary today. But if anybody's interested, we can rock out in the parking lot later. It's brilliant. So I am very nerve-sided. That's my portmanteau of nervous and excited to be this week's lay speaker, especially after listening to Chris. Just phenomenal. We have amazing members here. My name is Lea Case. Any and all pronouns are fine with me. I think I use we most often when I refer to myself these days. I also struggle with the concept of self, so it's pretty fitting that I work in politics and policy. In a late-night finance meeting last week, Senator Harris asked, Mr. Nakamoto, who's a Legislative Council Bureau fiscal staff, why can't the legislature make up its mind? Well, yeah, that's a good question. My work and sense of self exists in a body that can best be described as liminal. There's always an unsettled nature to policy. Even with a legislature that meets every other year, laws are never final. There's the regulatory phase where everything is implemented and some things aren't. There's the court system where sometimes laws are deemed absurd or deemed unlawful. It's all very silly at times. The world is just absurd, I've decided. That's a direct quote from my mom, by the way. The world is absurd. Another classic momism, life sucks and then you die, which is true in a lot of cases and very absurd, especially coming from mom. But, you know, that's how life is. And I also think in a family of 10 kids, I would probably be voted least likely to ever give a Sunday sermon. But I strive to be an enigma, so here I am, an atheist, giving a sermon on a Sunday morning. Yay! Yeah, it's a bucket list item I didn't even know I had until yesterday. Like yesterday morning, I was outside, I was weeding the yard. That's my favorite thing to do, is get out there, pull the weeds, use the weeds, all that stuff. Turn the compost. Didn't know this was a bucket list item until I wrote the speech. My grandpa was raised by a Lutheran minister, so I guess it's like a little bit in my blood to be preaching. My grandpa's in the hospital right now, right this very second, and I'm an advocate for his care. My family tends to call me when those conversations are needed towards the end of life. That's my role in life: composting, weeding, end-of-life advocacy. Almost 2 years ago exactly, I was in the same situation with my grandma, wife of 50 years to my grandfather, coordinating her care and advocating for her wishes to, quote, die in my own damn bed. It seems my relatives are on the same schedule as the legislature for major life events. The only constant is change. We must be willing to remain unsettled. This is true at the macro and the micro scale. As a society and as individuals, we must be willing to transition, to take leaps of faith, and to figure out the logistics of life later. But we must also recognize that true progress takes time and effort. When monumental policy decisions happen seemingly overnight, as was the case when the Dobbs v. Jackson case triggered multiple repeals of reproductive laws in an array of states, the results are an unsettled, chaotic, and faithless population. How do we keep hope? For some of us, how do we even find hope to begin with? For me, it starts with finding resources or refinding previous resources. I know exactly what type of therapy works for me. Psychomotor therapy, just so you all know, it's grand. Let me do my little movements. I know I need to get outside to remind myself of my community and my neighborhood in a physical way. It means listening to the services on Sunday, pulling weeds and turning the compost piles, making sure that my compost is coming along nicely. I really enjoy decomposition. And I'm an enigma. This is what it is. Policy work is mostly abstract. It's unlikely anyone will ever know who is behind the scenes advocating for changes. I'm humbled to make my living speaking on behalf of others, even if it means I sometimes forget who I am. I'm grateful to have the UUFNN here to remind me, to have our covenants, and to know that when I mess up, which is a lot, I can come here and be fully present, fully myself in my Sunday best and my suspenders, which are my favorite things, to begin again and to be welcomed. So on those days when this little light of mine dims, I can come back to community to light that spark of hope once again and find the power to carry on. Speaking of transitions, this is how I'm going to segue into talking about the Nevada legislature. That's just real harsh transition. So I want to share some resources and talk about how we can propel ourselves to the end of the legislative session. We're about 30 days out now. This session, I created a tracking list for bills of potential interest to UUFNN members, with the goal to include just a few bills of interest. Time for some numbers. There have been 454 Senate bills and 468 Assembly bills introduced this session, 922 for those of you keeping track at home. Most of those were amended, so you can just double that amount of bills. There are also 6 resolutions, 7 concurrent resolutions, and 10 joint resolutions introduced in the Assembly. In the Senate, 3 resolutions, 4 concurrent resolutions, and 7 joint resolutions. The executive budget is a little over 3,100 pages. And there are amendments, of course, to everything. So I spend a lot of time reviewing policy and budget documents. For UUFNN, I added 68 bills to the tracker. My perspective on what is just a few bills is a little skewed. Today, I included 43 on my list for potential discussion, and I narrowed those into 6 categories. So I want to talk a little bit about what policy discussions are taking place at the legislature. Maybe some things you've seen in the news, maybe some things you haven't. Like I said, there's big policy change, and there's little policy change, and it's happening all around us. A lot of what I'm going to talk about will depend on the budget and appropriations and going to a finance committee or a ways and means committee, which are my favorite to hang out in. And when I first talked to the Sunday forum about the legislature, I said, yeah, you should all hang out in the budget committees. And I got a question from Alan, what do you mean hang out? What is that? Yeah, because people don't typically think about hanging out in a budget committee hearing, and that's one of my pastimes. So if I'm out in the garden with my son, I'm listening to like an audit committee or something else equally dry and exciting in my world. So I've highlighted in my list of 48, 16 bills because I'm an optimist. I'm going to keep it pretty short and note that as of this reflection, all of these bills are still, quote, alive at the legislature. No legislation is actually dead until sine die, or sine die, if you want the actual Latin, but we don't use that at the Nevada legislature. It's sine die. In Nevada, we pronounce things our own way. All right, so on to some bill discussions. In the realm of healthcare, I know this is near and dear to a lot of our hearts. First, I want to talk about AB 357, which is a complete redefinition to sex education in schools. This changes the term to sexuality education and encompasses a broad range from healthy relationships to how drugs and alcohol can impact your decision making. It includes all sexualities and gender identities, and everything must be medically accurate. One other big change, it changes this to opt out instead of opt in. So right now we have an issue where kids are sent home with paperwork for parents to fill out and give permission to come into these classes. This switches that and assumes permission for this class unless you are explicitly opted out. Yeah. The more resources we have, the more empowered we are to make better decisions in our life. I also want to highlight SB 163, which is mandatory insurance coverage for gender affirming and related care. Yeah. And SB 172, which is the ability to consent for preventative treatment for STIs and contraceptives if you're underage. You can go in and ask for help, which, once we give people the access to medically accurate sexuality education, they will know they need to do. Yay! I have a lot on this list, so if you want to chat with me afterwards and talk about more, I'm happy to do that. On voting, we have SB 162, which would allow voting in county and city jails, because just because you are incarcerated does not mean you lose your right to make decisions. We have SB 216, which increases ballot access and polling places in tribal lands, so you don't have to travel all the way in. In housing, we have SB 68, which creates the Critical Needs Fund using a portion of the real property transfer tax, which is why I hang out in budget hearings. This will allow for supportive housing, for affordable housing, for folks who have serious mental illness and their families. So you can get this if you have a child, if you're taking care of an elderly relative. This will provide that affordable housing. I also want to highlight SB 450, which may not get a lot of play up here in the north. This is a bill specific to residents of a neighborhood in North Las Vegas called Windsor Park. And these residents were sold, all black residents were sold on the idea that these houses would generate generational wealth for years to come. And no environmental impact study was done. They didn't look at the geological condition of the ground that these houses were built on. And the houses are sinking and continue to sink. And they have been fighting for their property and what they were promised since the 70s. And it's time that we make that right. In cultural expression, excuse me, I want to highlight AB 73, which would allow children who are graduating from high school to wear adornments that signify their culture, so that they can celebrate their sense of self as they graduate. And AB 140, which would make Juneteenth a legal holiday in the state of Nevada. Right? There's a lot of good stuff happening at the legislature, and we don't often get to hear about it in the news. So I'm very happy to tell you all about this stuff. A couple highlights in criminal justice reform. AB 125 will require police to list missing and murdered Indigenous people in the state database on the request of tribes. AB 292 has some minimum standards for the treatment of women and other people who are pregnant while in prison, making sure that you're not shackled while giving birth. AB 452, similarly, would require regulations to be developed on a minimum number of in-person visitations allowed for people who've given birth, and if they have young children, or they're in the hospital, just to make sure that we are treating people with common dignity and respect. And SB 307 would place some restrictions and reporting on solitary confinement. I'm going to highlight two more bills. AB 71 is an interim study, the legislature loves study, on environmental justice. So that'll come back next session, and we'll see the results of that. And finally, I want to highlight AB 109, which creates the Soil Health Advisory Board. And I'm always so excited to learn about the people in our community who are advocating for those most in need. And so in the legislature, I've seen people advocate for children, for people who are incarcerated, for pregnant people. This is the first time I have seen an advocate for soil, for our creatures in the soil, and for things that really generate the nutrition that we need from the ground up. So AB 109 creates the Soil Health Advisory Board, and that is sponsored by our very own Assemblywoman Selena LaRue Hatch. And I'm going to turn it over to her to talk a little bit about her perspective at the legislature as a freshman and what she's working on, and how we as UU members can continue our engagement and help push across the finish line a few of those bills mentioned earlier. Thank you all.
If you could please rise as you're willing and able. The promise of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love abide, and so every soul is blessed and made whole. The truth in our hearts is our guide. We are standing on the side of love. Sorry. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. Sometimes we build a barrier to keep love tightly bound, corrupted by fear, unwilling to hear, denying the beauty we found. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. A bright new day is dawning, when love will not divide. Reflections of grace in every embrace, fulfilling the vision divine. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. We are answering the call of love. Thank you.
Okay, we're just gonna do this because I'm pretty short and I'm also a teacher and I like to walk around while I'm talking. So if this is not disallowed, if I can do this, okay. There we go then. My name is Selena LaRue Hatch. I am the assembly member for this district and I am so proud to have this group of people and this building and this fellowship in my district. A lot of people call me assemblywoman in the building, but I am a teacher, and that's what I identify as most. I teach at North Valleys High School, world history for the win, and when I'm not teaching, I'm at the legislature fighting the good fight every day. So I met Lea through our work at the legislature, and I just want you to know what an incredible advocate she is. She is there, and I know she has a day job, and she has to fight for her clients, but she also comes into my office quite frequently, and we maybe vent a little bit about the injustice that we see, and I think we are both kindred spirits in that. Neither of us can let an injustice stand, even when it's not our bill, even when it's not our fight. We're like, no, we can do something, let's figure it out. And so she invited me here today, and I was just delighted to accept, because it is a hard place to be in the legislature, and those of you that have been there know it is a place full of cynicism. It is a place where you hit brick walls. It is a place with politics and all its ugliness. And it's really easy, I think, to get discouraged. I think it's really easy to lose yourself. And so anytime I can come back in the community and I can commune with people who I think are pretty much on the same page of fighting for the same things that I'm fighting for, I'm just happy to do that. And so I thank you all for that invitation, because just even this morning is filling up my cup. it's helping me find that motivation again to keep fighting for those last 30 days. So I wanted to open with that, with a thank you for sharing your fellowship with me. Oh. And I wanted to speak a little bit to the importance of getting involved. I think Lea went through all of the bills very excellently. I don't need to lay out any more bills on your plate, but I just want to say, you make a difference when you come. I've seen you in your yellow shirts in the building. I love seeing the yellow shirts in the building. I want to see more yellow shirts in the building, because in that building there are a lot of lobbyists, and typically lobbyists are there for the people that have the means to pay them to be there, right? And I want you to think about who can come to the legislature to advocate. It's people that have the transportation to get there. It's people that can take time off work to get there. It's people that can pay someone else to go there on their behalf. And there's far too few advocates for the people in those rooms. And so when you come and when you advocate for the people, it makes a huge difference. And so I just want you to know your efforts are seen, they are powerful. I hope they continue and they grow, because we need more lobbyists for the people in that building. And we need lobbyists for people that can't get to that building. Our most marginalized communities can't get to Carson and get into that building. And so we need you to be there for them. I also want to tell you a story. There's a constituent of mine. His name is Barry Cole. Some of you in the building may have met him. He came up to me last December and he said, "Assemblywoman, I want to get involved." And I was like, "That's awesome. You should totally get involved. I'm going to come to the legislature and I'm going to lobby." I was like, "Absolutely, please do that." And I expected to see him maybe once or twice. He is a retired psychologist or psychiatrist, and I expected, he'll show up maybe 3 times. He has come to every single Judiciary Committee meeting. He has come to every single Health and Human Services meeting, and he gets up and he just speaks on every single bill, and he just says what he thinks and what he thinks is best for his community. And guess what? Now my colleagues listen to him. Sometimes bills come up and they're like, "Well, I wonder what Dr. Cole will think about this." And he's made a huge impact, and it's just one man who decided he's going to spend his retirement literally hanging out in committee rooms, and it's made an incredible difference. And so I just want to share that because I want to remind you of the power that you have. I think a lot of people look at me and they look at other legislators and they go, "Oh, they have the power," right? They're the ones that have to make the change. But guess what? I'm just a teacher. I'm just a teacher who decided my kids weren't getting what they needed, and so I was going to run and make sure my kids got their voice in those rooms where the decisions were made. But I'm not any more powerful or impressive or important than anyone else. And you all collectively have the power. And you working together is far more powerful than anything that I can do. And I just want to remind you of that. And I want you to know how critical you are in our democracy. And I often remember, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. But remember, Barack Obama reminded us, it bends towards justice because we reach up and we pull it to justice. That is how we make change. And so I just want to applaud your efforts, and I want to remind you that they're not in vain and that they are critical. And there are huge issues being debated at the legislature that you can have an impact on. So I just want to thank you all for inviting me, and I'm here to chat afterwards about ways you can get involved, but please do so. It is critical.
When I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. Thank you, Bill. Let us in this time of quietness practice breathing in peace and breathing out love. Find a way to comfort yourself. Put your feet on the floor. Take a deep breath and let it out. Take a deep breath and let it out. For this is a special time in our service when we can share our joys and concerns with each other. For those on Zoom, you can put them in the chat box or simply hold your thoughts in your heart. We ask people with joys and concerns to fill out the yellow or blue sheets if they're available. This is a happy crowd. I only got one today, and it's a happy thought. It's from Sheila. You remember Sheila? She used to be chairman of the auction, and she just wrote about yesterday's auction, carnival. Awesome carnival yesterday. Thanks to all who made it possible. Let's give them another round of applause. So let's take this time to reflect on and give thanks to the good that's come your way, or simply think about those concerns that you may have. And let's have a time of quiet. Has become our custom. Let's put our hand on our heart, the other hand palm outward, just to say we are all in this together. As I close our prayer and meditation time with words that you may recognize, I'm paraphrasing the words of one of our favorite hymns. When our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When we tell our story from deep inside and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. Amen.
When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. When I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love.
We've had so much going on, there's very few announcements today, but just remember to check your the newsletter every week. There's just full of so many things that we're doing here at the fellowship. And don't forget the posse. The posse, which feeds some of our homeless people, always needs your help. So see Jane wave back there. Jane, see Jane to ask what you can do to help. And Nathan, I think you had an announcement.
It's because I have all the announcements. Tonight, Junto, our group for working age adults here at UUFNN, are having their first of the month potluck tonight at 5 p.m. in the Star King room, which is in that building right behind the great room. Please bring something to share and come for connection, conversation, and good food. You can talk to me after the service for more information. Next Sunday is our Mother's Day service. We are also going to be celebrating our Soul for Souls drive. This is a great opportunity to support people in developing countries in launching small businesses to break the cycle of poverty. What we'll need from all of you is to bring gently used shoes that we will be donating. So come with some shoes to give. We will also be collecting single or worn socks to send to a sock recycling program. So if you have that one sock that got lost in the dryer and you don't have that match anymore, we'll take it. If you have that sock with the hole in the heel and it just makes your foot a little too cold, we'll take it. So bring your socks and your shoes next Sunday on May 14th. Also, on May 19th, UUFNN is hosting a community game night. There will be an array of classic and new board games and card games. It is fun for all ages. It is also a potluck, so bring some food to share and have fun with our beloved community. You can talk to me after the service or email me if you have any questions or would like to bring a game to play. And this is a two-parter. At the end of service today, David Shirey will be leading our A Chosen Faith Part 1. So if you are a new member or a visitor who would love to hear more about the history of Unitarian Universalism and this fellowship, David will be leading a class in the library, which is just that door diagonal from the door you walk out of this room from. And that will begin at 12:30. And on May 21st, we're doing our part 2 to A Chosen Faith. And this will focus on Unitarian Universalist theology and polity. In other words, we are going to be exploring how UUs speak and believe about that which is larger than us, that goes by a lot of names, and how we lead, govern, co-create, and imagine this beloved community. This class is especially important for all of our new members as we get ready for our annual meeting, which is on June 11th. Last week I made a mistake in writing my announcement, and I apologize. It is June 11th. So if you want to refresh yourself on our polity and how we make decisions, if you want to or learn it for the first time, that will be May 21st at 12 p.m. after the service. And you can talk to me for more information. Those are all of my announcements, but For those who are new, I realized I got way into the announcements. My name is Nathan. I am the Director of Faith Exploration and Transformative Learning here at UUFNN, and I use they, them pronouns. And with that, I will pass it off to our lovely leaders.
Lovely is not a word I hear often. Would you stand as you're willing and able? In the warmth of your presence, I am safe at home. I will stand. I will stand. In the deepest conflict, I am not alone. I will stand. I will stand. I will stand. I will stand with the spark in my hand. I will stand in the circle with a circle in me. I will stand. I will stand. I will stand in myself when I'm not feeling strong. I will stand. I will stand. I will tear down the walls and sing a freedom song. I will stand. I will stand. I will stand. I will stand with the spark in my hand. I will stand in the circle and the circle with me. I will stand. I will stand. I will gather the courage I have found in me. I will stand. I will stand. I will honor the vision of who I will be. I will stand. I will stand. I will stand. I will stand with the spark in my hand. I will stand with the circle in me. I will stand. I will stand. I will stand. Circle with a circle in me. I will stand. I will stand. Thank you.
Stay standing for the closing benediction. And now, may we have the faith and life to do wise planting, that the generations to come may reap even more abundantly than we. May we be bold in bringing to fruition the golden dreams of human kinship and justice. This we ask, that the fields of promise become fields of reality. By Emil Gudmundsson, so may it be. Amen and namaste.